Daniel's fingers hovered for a moment over the keyboard before he finally pressed a single key, Save As. Instead of altering the numbers as his boss had implied, he created a new file and labeled it simply, Truthful Report, Final. The name looked stark on the screen, almost defiant, like a flag planted in unfamiliar territory. He hit save, exhaled slowly, and leaned back, feeling the weight of the decision settle over him. It wasn't relief he felt exactly, more like clarity, the sharp, cold clarity that comes when a person finally decides who they are going to be. But the moment of peace did not last long. Almost immediately, fear crawled back into his stomach with cold fingers. What if Carver reacted badly? What if he lost his job? What if this single choice spiraled into consequences he couldn't control? He could already hear the imaginary conversations his co-workers might have behind closed doors, the judgments, the whispered warnings that he was too rigid or too idealistic. Sireni, he wondered if they would avoid him, seeing him as a threat to their own comfort. He lowered his head into his hands and let out a quiet groan. Why does doing the right thing feel so terrifying? He wondered. He had always believed that following God would give him peace. Yet here he was, trembling beneath the weight of his own conviction. And yet, even as anxiety pressed at him, something deeper whispered softly beneath it. A stillness, a quiet reassurance that fear could not entirely erase. Courage isn't the absence of fear, he remembered hearing once. It's choosing faith despite it. He shut down his computer, gathered his things, and turned off the lights. The office felt different now, colder, emptier, as though aware of the invisible battle that had just taken place within its walls. As he walked to the elevator, he felt the faint pressure of uncertainty on his shoulders, but the small crucifix in his pocket felt warm against his fingertips, reminding him of the presence he had chosen to honor. Outside, the night air wrapped around him like a cool blanket. The city, usually bustling with movement and noise, seemed softer now, the distance between buildings filled with quiet shadows. He walked toward his car, each step echoing slightly in the parking garage. As he pulled out onto the street, the silence in the car felt heavy, filled with questions he wasn't ready to answer. His phone buzzed, a message from his friend Lucas. Still at the office? Want to grab late dinner? Daniel hesitated. Lucas was one of the few friends he trusted, someone who had stood by him through difficult seasons, though he didn't share Daniel's same faith. If Daniel told him what happened, he knew Lucas might respond with practical advice. Just do what the boss says, or don't make life harder than it needs to be. Lucas cared, but he didn't understand the weight of conscience the way Daniel did. Still, Daniel needed a voice besides the fear swirling inside him. Sure, he typed back. Usual place? Yep, be there in 10, Lucas replied. The cafe they usually met at was a quiet corner spot, open late for university students and night shift workers. As Daniel walked in, the warm smell of baked bread and coffee wrapped around him like a comfort he didn't know he needed. Lucas sat at a small table by the window, scrolling through his phone. You look like someone stole your paycheck, Lucas said as Daniel slid into the seat across from him. His tone was joking, but his eyes were observant. Rough night? Daniel exhaled, rubbing his forehead. Yeah, something like that. What happened? For a moment, Daniel didn't know where to begin. He didn't want to sound dramatic, and he didn't want Lucas to think he was overreacting. But he also needed to speak the truth out loud, if only to steady his own heart. My boss wanted me to alter the financial report, Daniel said quietly. Nothing huge, nothing obvious. Just enough to make the company look better than it really is. Lucas leaned back. And I'm guessing you said no? I didn't alter anything, Daniel answered, his voice soft but firm. I sent the report exactly as it is. Lucas whistled low under his breath. Wow, that takes guts. But, Dan, you know this might not end well, right? Corporations don't like it when their employees don't play the game. Daniel nodded. I know. Are you prepared for what comes next? He stared at his hands on the table, the faint outline of a callus on his thumb from years of nervous rubbing. I don't know if anyone is ever ready for consequences, he admitted, but I am ready to not lie. That's something. Lucas studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "You're a good guy, Dan. Better than most. But the world you're trying to live in, it doesn't work the way you want it to." Daniel lifted his eyes. "Maybe it's not the world that needs to shape me. Maybe it's faith. Maybe it's the truth." Lucas didn't argue. Instead, he reached out, gave Daniel's shoulder a squeeze, and said, "Well, whatever happens, I'm here. And I hope your God gives you the strength you need, because you're going to need it." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Yeah, me too." They ate quietly for a while, talking about lighter things, but Daniel's mind drifted back to the morning to come. The meeting, Carver's reaction, the possibility of being called out, pressured, or even let go. The fear rose again like a dark wave, but he gently pushed it back with the same prayer he had whispered earlier. "Lord, stay with me." When he finally arrived home, the small apartment felt dim and comforting. He set his bag down, poured himself a glass of water, and sat on the edge of his bed. The quiet of the room wrapped around him, and he breathed deeply, letting some of the tension melt away. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small crucifix, holding it gently between his fingers. He thought of the Maccabees, those ancient warriors of faith who refused to bow to false gods even when it meant death. He thought of countless unnamed men and women throughout history who had quietly chosen truth over comfort, whose bravery had never been written in books but had echoed in heaven. He did not feel like one of them, not strong, not courageous, not heroic, yet tonight he had taken a step into the same direction. A small step perhaps, but a real one. Before he went to sleep, Daniel knelt beside his bed. His prayer was simple and without flourish. "God, you know I'm scared. You know tomorrow feels heavy. But please, help me be faithful. Help me hold on. I don't want to betray you, even in the small things." As he crawled under the blankets, exhaustion falling over him like a thick shadow, he felt something unusual, a fragile peace, not loud or triumphant, but steady. The kind of peace that slips into the heart when a person chooses truth over fear, even when the outcome remains uncertain. It was the kind of peace that felt like the very beginning of courage. Tomorrow the storm would come, but tonight he rested in the quiet knowledge that he had chosen God. Morning arrived too quickly. The soft vibration of Daniel's alarm pulled him from shallow sleep, and for a moment he lay still, unsure where dream ended and reality resumed. Then the weight settled back onto his chest. The meeting, the report, the decision he had already made but had not yet faced the consequences of. The faint courage he felt the night before dissolved under the daylight, and fear rushed in to take its place. He sat up slowly, pressing the palms of his hands into his eyes. "Lord, help me," he whispered before even taking his first breath of the day. The apartment was cold, the early light filtering through thin curtains with a pale calmness he wished he could feel. As he dressed, he felt like someone preparing not for work but for battle. Each button, each knot of his tie, a reminder that today would not be ordinary. On the drive to the office, familiar streets felt foreign. He turned off the radio, needing silence more than distraction. His thoughts moved like shadows, dark, quick, impossible to fully grasp. He imagined Carver's anger, imagined being called out in front of the team, imagined security escorting him out with a cardboard box filled with the meager belongings from his desk. He hated that his imagination always sprinted toward the worst outcomes, but fear rarely respected boundaries. Yet beneath the swirling anxiety, something steadier remained, small but anchored. It was not confidence exactly, but conviction, a whisper that repeated through the tension inside him. "You chose truth. You are not alone." When he parked outside the office, he sat in his car for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. He thought again of the Maccabees, men refusing to bend. They had faced death. He was facing discomfort. The comparison humbled him and strengthened him at the same time. He walked into the building, the fluorescent lights flickering faintly overhead, the usual hum of early employees filling the hallway with soft echoes. Everything looked normal. He wished he felt normal. His inbox was already full, but one message stood out. Subject, meeting with Carver, 9:15 a.m. His pulse quickened. There it was. He took a slow breath, sat down, and opened the message. It was short, formal, and gave no clue of tone. Daniel, come to my office at 9:15 to discuss the financial summary you submitted. See, he stared at the line for a long moment, willing it to reveal something more. Anger, disappointment, even understanding. But it remained cold, unreadable. Minutes passed slowly. The office buzzed with normalcy, while Daniel felt detached from it, as though watching the world through glass. His coworkers greeted him casually, unaware of the storm inside him. He smiled back, but his stomach twisted tighter with each passing second. At 9:10, he stood. His legs felt heavy, like they belonged to someone else. He walked down the hallway toward Carver's office, each step a small defiance against the fear that whispered he should turn back. The door was open slightly, the narrow gap revealing the edge of Carver's desk. Daniel knocked gently. "Come in," said a voice that carried no emotion. Carver looked up as Daniel stepped inside, his expression unreadable but sharp, like someone who missed nothing. He gestured to the chair opposite him. "Sit." Daniel obeyed, back straight, hands resting tensely on his lap. Carver flipped through the printed summary on his desk, the pages making soft, measured sounds. Finally, he lowered them and looked directly at Daniel. "I reviewed your report," he said calmly. Daniel swallowed, bracing himself. "And I noticed," Carver continued, "that you did not make the adjustments we discussed." His tone was still even, but there was something behind it. Something like disappointment or irritation, or perhaps something more calculated. "Yes," Daniel replied, keeping his voice steady. "I submitted the figures exactly as they are." Carver leaned back, studying him. "Why?" Daniel took a breath. "Because the numbers reflect our actual performance. Altering them, even slightly, would be dishonest." A long pause followed. The seconds stretched like a thread pulled too tight. "Daniel," Carver said slowly, "let me explain something to you. This company runs on more than numbers. It runs on confidence, investor confidence, client confidence, internal confidence. Sometimes small adjustments are necessary to maintain stability." "I understand stability is important," Daniel said, "but honesty has to matter too. Once we start changing truth for convenience, it becomes very hard to stop." Carver's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with interest, as though Daniel's response was not expected. "You're a principal," he said. "That's clear, but principles can be expensive in the real world." "I know," Daniel admitted quietly. "Are you prepared?" Carver asked, leaning closer. "To pay for them?" Daniel didn't speak immediately. He felt a tremor in his chest. But then, as if something steadied him from within, he heard his own voice speak, softer than he expected but certain. "If the cost of keeping my job is dishonesty, then yes, I'm prepared." Carver's expression shifted, only slightly but enough to reveal something Daniel could not quite understand. Respect, annoyance, a hint of conflict. After another tense moment, Carver exhaled through his nose and looked away. "Most employees wouldn't say no to me," he murmured, "especially not on something as small as this." Daniel didn't know whether to apologize or remain silent, so he said nothing. Carver tapped the report again. "I disagree with your decision, but I don't fire people for having integrity." He paused. "I fire people for being careless, lazy, or disrespectful. You're none of those things." Daniel blinked, caught off guard. Carver continued. "This could make things complicated, but not impossible. I'll handle it." A rush of relief hit Daniel so suddenly he had to stop himself from closing his eyes. But alongside the relief was something else. A new awareness that the path ahead was still uncertain. His choice hadn't erased consequences, it had simply redefined them. "You can go," Carver said finally. Daniel stood, nodded respectfully, and left the office with legs that felt a little less heavy, though his heart still raced from the encounter. Back at his desk, he sat down slowly. His entire body felt warm with adrenaline, but in the center of his chest, something glowed quietly, something like peace, something like fulfillment. He had faced the moment he feared, and he had not bowed. Later that afternoon, while reviewing documents, he felt a sudden wave of gratitude wash over him. Not because the day had turned out well, he didn't know if it truly had, but because he had tasted the freedom that comes only from choosing truth. He whispered a prayer under his breath. "Thank you, God, for giving me strength, even just enough for today." And as the sun began to lower behind the city skyline, Daniel realized something profound. Courage was not a one-time act. It was a posture, a daily choice, a quiet, steady movement toward God in a world that constantly tried to pull him away. Today he had taken another step, and tomorrow he would take another. Evening settled over the city like a soft curtain, dimming the noise, washing the glass towers in fading gold. Daniel walked out of the office feeling both lighter and heavier at once. Lighter because the confrontation was behind him, heavier because the journey ahead was far from finished. But at least now he knew what kind of man he wanted to be. On the drive home, he kept replaying the meeting in his head. Carver's expression still lingered, stern, unreadable, yet strangely respectful. The man had expected compliance, not conviction. Daniel knew the choice he made could still shape the future in ways he couldn't predict. He might face quiet consequences later, fewer opportunities, harder tasks, closer scrutiny. But for the first time in a long time, the cost didn't frighten him. What terrified him far more was the idea of living as someone he didn't recognize. When he finally reached his apartment, he set his keys down and let out a long breath he felt he had held all day. The silence of the room embraced him. It wasn't empty anymore. It felt like peace, real peace, not the fragile imitation he used to chase by avoiding hard choices. He heated a simple dinner and sat by the window, watching the streetlights blink awake one by one. People hurried past below, faces tired, arms full, hearts carrying stories he would never know. He thought about how many of them had compromised something important within themselves today. How many had faced choices like his? How many had felt alone in their struggle to do what was right? He closed his eyes for a moment and prayed silently. Not for rescue, not for a reward, but for strength. For the strength to keep choosing truth even when no one saw, even when no one applauded. Later that night, he sat on the edge of his bed, the quiet hum of the city drifting through the window. He opened his Bible, not looking for a specific verse, just needing the familiar feel of the pages. His eyes landed on words he had read countless times before, but tonight they felt alive. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He exhaled deeply. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was the kind of breath that steadies the soul. As he set the book aside, his phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number. "Thank you for standing up today. More people notice than you think." There was no name, no explanation. Daniel frowned in confusion. Who? A coworker? Someone who overheard? Someone who had been silently fighting the same unspoken expectations and finally saw hope? He didn't reply. He simply read the message again and let it sink into the quiet places of his heart. Maybe the courage God asks for in one person becomes the spark someone else needs. Maybe truth is not only about being honest, it is about opening a door for others to walk through. He lay down, the day washing over him again like waves. He knew tomorrow could bring new challenges, but he also knew something he hadn't known before. He wasn't powerless. Courage didn't come from the absence of fear. It came from choosing God while fear was still present. As sleep started to pull him gently under, a new thought emerged, soft but profound. Maybe courage was not only about staying loyal to God. Maybe courage was also about believing that God stayed loyal to him. The next morning came quietly. Daniel rose before the sun, feeling strangely rested. He poured a cup of coffee and stepped onto the small balcony outside his living room. The air was cool, the sky slowly shifting from deep blue to silver as dawn approached. He could almost feel the world holding its breath. It reminded him of the reflection he had heard the night before. The words about Israel, about compromise, about the cost of staying faithful. He had always admired those stories from a distance, reading them like legends of ancient heroes. But now he understood something deeper. Courage wasn't reserved for saints or martyrs. Courage was the daily bread of anyone who wanted to follow God sincerely. And today he wanted to follow God sincerely. As he stood in the soft morning light, a gentle conviction stirred within him. He didn't need to wait for another crisis to show faithfulness. He could choose courage in small things too, in conversations, in honesty, in kindness, in compassion, in restraint, in forgiveness, in patience. He felt something shift inside him, not a dramatic transformation, but a steadying of the soul, a quiet strengthening, a resolve forming like dawn on the horizon. Later that day, when he arrived at work, something unexpected happened. A co-worker named Emily approached him hesitantly. She spoke softly, glancing around to make sure no one listened. "I heard about what happened yesterday," she said. "I just wanted to say thank you. Not many people stand up like that anymore." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with relief, as if his decision had lifted a weight off more than just his own shoulders. Daniel felt warmth spread through his chest. "You're welcome," he said gently. I had to do what was right." Emily nodded. "Most of us want to," she whispered. "We're just scared." Her words struck deeply. They reminded him of something he had forgotten. Courage is contagious. As she walked away, Daniel realized that the impact of truth was bigger than he imagined. Courage didn't just protect his own integrity, it created a space where others could breathe again. That evening, when he returned home, he felt a sense of calm he hadn't known in years. Not because life had become easier, not because problems had disappeared, but because his heart was no longer divided. He had learned something precious, something worth more than comfort, approval, or even job security. The safest place a person can stand is inside the truth. As the stars appeared above the quiet city, Daniel whispered one last prayer before the day closed. "God, thank you for staying close. Thank you for giving courage to people who feel small. Help me keep choosing you, even when it costs something." And for the first time in a very long time, he slept, not with fear, but with faith. A faith strengthened, a heart steadied, a soul at peace. Thank you, friends, for listening to this story. If it touched your spirit, please like this video, share it with someone who needs courage tonight, subscribe for more faith-filled stories, and comment below with your prayer intentions so we can lift each other up.